happened? What happened? What happened to this show? Oh my god. Dude. You know, The Walking Dead will always be my favorite television drama. So if this had happened, like you guys remember, for my fans who've seen my content, you remember how torn up I was when I realized that Andrew Lincoln / Rick Grimes was leaving the show of The Walking Dead in season 9, because that felt like my favorite show was dying. And then Angela Kang saved season 9 of The Walking Dead. If you're a Game of Thrones fan who hasn't seen season 9 of The Walking Dead, it fixes a lot of the problems the show had before. So you have something to watch. I'm just going to put that out there. I'm not as invested in... I mean, Game of Thrones for many people is like the penultimate TV drama. Better than Breaking Bad, better than Walking Dead, better than, even some say better than Sopranos, even though Sopranos is kind of like, that's kind of like the top of the top. It's also an HBO... It was really like probably one of the first big HBO dramas. This show has a lot of followers. It has a lot of fans. People who have read the books, people who have watched the show, believe the lore, come up with theories. And I just cannot believe how a show ends like this. How do we get to this point where character development is eviscerated? All of us tonight, and I'm talking about the penultimate episode, episode 5 of season 8. There's still one more episode. But in my mind, the show is basically, like, I can predict right now what's going to happen. Alright, someone's going to kill Daenerys. It's either going to be Jon Snow or Arya. It's going to be one of them. They're gonna kill Daenerys, and then someone random's gonna take over as king, and we're just gonna have to live with that fucking ending. But all of us tonight in tonight's episode we were all Varys. We were all reduced to ash. We were all the people in King's Landing. We were the buildings. We were all of those things that were reduced to ash and ripped down to the foundation level, when we were a base block that was slowly building and ascending to something that could have been great. I mean, I'm trying to figure out... where I should start. Because this is not even a review of episode 5. This is just... This show is ruined. This show that they spent all these years, 2011, they based it off of the books. The first 5 seasons adapted George R.R. Martin's books, not completely, but it got the major beats. For the most part, it covered the major beats, the major plot moments. And to get to this point, so many characters that we have built, and we've gone through these arcs, and think about, like, the line on a stock market just keeps going up, 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 if you want to, like, attribute it to the 1929 stock market crash, because basically what happened to all of our characters, their arcs were building, they were going up, and then there was, all of a sudden, there was 1 or 2 episodes, and then steep decline, and it could never be redeemed. Could never, ever, ever be redeemed. And I'm just thinking about the different ways that this show could have ended. I mean, Daenerys is the one that's popping out to me right now. My mind is so fried right now. I'm trying to just process everything, but I just cannot believe that these idiots, And I read an article, David and Dan, the showrunners, I read an article that HBO was willing to offer these guys more money to do more episodes of the series. Whether it was more episodes of season 7, at season 8, possibly a season 9 if they wanted to continue it. But David and Dan said that the 73 minutes, or the 73 hours, whatever the total runtime is, that they thought that that was a sufficient amount of time, that the story they wanted to tell could be told in that amount of time. Everyone would have a just ending. Everything would be wrapped up. It would be fine. Completely fine. Completely okay. Don't worry about it. I'm starting to worry about it. Actually, no, I'm beyond that. I've basically resigned myself from this show. I don't really give a shit what happens, and after next week, Game of Thrones is over. And you won't have like a Sopranos ending where it just cuts to black. You won't have a satisfying ending like Breaking Bad where we have everyone's character. Or think about Breaking Bad. Compare to a show that actually had a good ending. I think most people across the board who watch Breaking Bad can say that that show had a good ending. For Walter White, Jesse Pinkman, his wife, so many characters had a justified ending to their characters in the 5.5 seasons that show had to tell its story. Most people would say that. Is anyone going to be saying that after tonight's episode, after next week's episode? I mean, think about watching anyone who wants to binge watch this show. So say you watch it from season 1 to season 8. You're a lifetime fan. You watch this show from start to finish. And then you want to go back and watch season 1. So Daenerys was secretly the villain of this show the whole time. That's what we were told tonight. The bells were rung. She had an opportunity to show mercy. She is how many times? The breaker of chains, the mother of dragons. She helped people in Meereen. She helped people because she was once the defenseless. She was abused by Khal Drogo. She was abused by her dickhead brother Viserys. She was abused, raped, tortured. She had that speech to Jon Snow in season 7, episode 3, when they first met, that she had been abused and tortured and tossed about, and she was here to help people and bring them out of the rut, just like she was, because she had advisors like Jorah Mormont, the Dothraki eventually, the Unsullied, her dragons. She had things that, yes, all of these things, it was armies, it was, they all had the ability to kill and hurt, but they all brought the best out of her. They helped turn her into a leader, because she was a defenseless small girl who morphed into a leader. And she was a leader in Meereen. And I remember Tyrion's words when Tyrion and Daenerys really had their first conversation in season 5. Tyrion said to Daenerys, perhaps Meereen is the best place that you belong. Maybe this is the place where you can do the most good. And I fully agree with that statement, because the slavers, and I think they touched upon it a little bit here. Even Daenerys said, in Westeros, nobody likes her, because even though her family was born and they lived in Westeros, she was not raised and born in Westeros. She was born and raised in Essos, in Pentos, where she was hiding. Her life was defined in Essos, not in Westeros. She's a foreigner in her own land. And she comes back to Westeros and expects everyone to love her. And she goes to the north, expects everyone to love her. But no, Jon is a native northerner, so they love him. And that's why he would really be the perfect king, because he has the northern blood, but he also has the Targaryen link. So he is really the perfect idealistic leader that could really threaten Daenerys and bring her down. But Daenerys has always done things in the best interest of the people. And she said a similar statement in season 7, I am not here to be queen of the ashes. Well, guess what? Apparently, losing Missandei, Jorah, apparently losing her friends, because I saw the behind the scenes video where Dan and David were trying to explain themselves. Apparently, they said, oh, because Daenerys doesn't have her advisors and her friends, she's gone cuckoo, and now she just wants to burn them all. And it ties into Bran's vision. If you remember in Season 6, where he had the vision of a dragon flying over King's Landing, and the Night King screaming, burn them all, Daenerys fulfilled what her dad was screaming before he was killed. She did it. She fulfilled that. And I can see the way that, and that's the sad thing, I can see the way that Dan and David were trying to web this story together. You know, Bran's visions, that scene that in season 2 where Daenerys is walking through the Iron Throne, and you see the roof is destroyed and it looks like snow, but it was really ash. It's really a foreshadowing of all of the people that she murdered and the ash of their bodies just falling down. So I can see all of the setup. Like, in hindsight, yes, I understand how they set it up. And I'm sure they're leaning back with a cocktail like, oh, you know, look at all that setup. We did a pretty good job. It's like, but your character development skills are terrible. Is this where you wanted Daenerys to end up? To be the villain? Because she's the villain now. For one episode, she is our new villain. Because Cersei and Jaime died, were crushed by rubble. And the Night King had his shitty fate. I already had a rant video on that a few weeks ago. So Daenerys is now our new villain for one episode, where she'll most likely be murdered by either Jon Snow or Arya, who, in the preview clip, Arya was giving her that death look. You know, we saw Arya having to survive and watching people get eviscerated and destroyed. And it's really going to come down to either one of them. Either Arya or Jon is going to commit the killing blow, and then that'll be it. And then that'll be Daenerys's. She went from being an innocent, small, weak girl to finding herself, to helping people. Yeah, she made some bad decisions, but she had, you know, advisors and people to help her, and she herself wanted to do things in the best interest of people. Again, she made some bad decisions every now and then, but she was never, like, I never got the sense that she was a bad person, that she would do something like this. I never thought it capable that she would just do something so atrocious, because it seems like such, it undoes all of the good she's done. Honestly, it's kind of like if, this is a spoiler warning for Avengers Endgame. I know that came out of left field because it was just a thought I had. Spoilers for Avengers Endgame, very briefly. 30 seconds. It's kind of like Thanos when they do the whole time travel thing and Thanos amends his philosophy. He's like, all right, I tried wiping out 50% of life. That didn't work. I saw a future where you're still vengeful and want to change everything. So now I'm just going to destroy the universe, wipe the slate clean, and start over, because anyone who remembers the old world is going to fight for it, and I can't have that. So if I emerge victorious, I have a new philosophy. But you see, that character progression, it was natural to Thanos. Like, he did things pragmatically. This was all blind emotional rage from somebody who, yeah, we've seen hints of this before, like when Barristan Selmy was killed by the those, what the hell, who they were, the Sons of the Harpy, those people in Meereen, those rich people. They killed Barristan Selmy, and then she brought a few of the rich people into the cellar where her dragons were, and she roasted them alive. So yes, we've seen some of these Mad King tendencies before, and so all of those tendencies, they were building up to Daenerys being this evil, evil person that now needs to be taken down. But again, you try to fit that. Like, I could understand if that was one continuous plot line that they were trying to eventually build to. But you had the show, you had us believing that the Night King, I'm gonna go back to it in my previous argument. You had us believing that the Night King, winter is coming. The first scene of the freaking series is the Night Watch running away from these blue-eyed monsters, and we're like, oh my gosh. And that iconic photo of Ned Stark leaning on his sword, looking down, mumbling the words of his house before he beheads the deserter. And then his son asks him, do you think the White Walkers are real? Do you think what he's saying is true? Ned Stark says winter is coming, and then we attributed winter is coming with the threat of those freaking White Walkers because they brought the storm. Jon Snow had us believing it. Jon Snow had us believing that the squabbling over the throne was for nothing, and that the true enemy was the White Walkers and these blue-eyed monsters. And you you diverted your plot. What Daenerys did in this episode, she could have done since the moment she landed in Dragonstone with her army. And she had 3 dragons. She had 3 freaking dragons. The moment she landed, she could have easily just flown to the Red Keep, burned the whole fucking place down, and then she would have still had a large army to then focus on the Night King. And the Night King wouldn't have even been able to get through because they were trying to capture a White Walker soldier to show Cersei. So if they kill Cersei, there's no reason for them to go north with the dragons. The Night King never kills a dragon, never raises it from the dead and melts the wall. So the Night King is perpetually stuck behind the wall if you had just taken out Cersei from the first moment. I'm sorry I'm blowing my nose, but I'm talking so much, and I'm so freaking agitated with this plot because I don't know what direction they were trying to go. They bit off way more than they could chew. And it's funny because Game of Thrones, these past 2 seasons, and I feel like all of these problems started with season 7 and 8. Game of Thrones is suffering from the problem. It's the opposite problem that The Walking Dead had back in season 7 and 8 of their show. People thought that the Negan savior conflict was dragging on way too long. You know, you had 16 episodes instead of 10. There was commercials. So people felt that the conflict for Game of Thrones fans who don't know what I'm talking about, there was a villainous group for 2.5 seasons that lasted 2.5 years, 2.5 seasons, and people were getting worn out and starting to leave the show and starting to complain about it. They eventually wrapped it up, and season 9 had a new showrunner who really brought the show back to its horror roots, I'll say. I won't get too much into it. I have other vlogs on my channel where I talk about season 9. A recent vlog I uploaded is how Angela Kang saved The Walking Dead. You can watch all of that if you'd like. But this Game of Thrones did the opposite. They rushed their plot. They only had 7 episodes for season 7 and 6 for season 8. Now, why would they do that? They've had 10 for 6 seasons. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 seasons. They had 10 episodes each. And it worked. The structure worked because you could go to different characters, do different storylines, have them all relate. I mean, you had characters in all different parts of the world, and yet, even if they didn't get to a character in a certain episode, you knew there was a long runtime, you knew there were multiple episodes, so you'd eventually see them, the plot would eventually reconvene at some fulcrum point at some point. But because they had less episodes in season 7 and 8, I really feel like they were like, let's just get this shit done. It's almost like they had a deadline, and they're like, it's the night before you're cramming for an essay. Say you have a 30-page essay due, and you fall asleep, you wake up, it's 10 p.m., and oh my gosh, I have a class at 11 a.m. the next morning, and I haven't even gotten halfway through this paper. So you cram, you just write nonsense, you copy-paste stuff from Wikipedia. It looks like utter dog shit. It's not cited properly. And then you're like, hey, like, I did it. Here, it's done. This is the culmination of all the work I've been doing all semester. It's going to have a big grade, a big impact on my future. And here's the final product. I rushed it with little time and little effort. And then your professor gets it and says, this is this is garbage. Like, what, you didn't put any time into this. This is rushed. It looks like it's rushed. And it doesn't show me all of the hard work you put into your other quizzes and tests and homework assignments that led you up to this point. And that's my analogy. That's my analogy. I have these analogies in other videos that I think of for stuff like this. And this is the best analogy I can come up with. The student professor, like the final paper, the thesis that sums up all of your work that you were building towards, all of the little assignments and projects, that was just really to get to this point where you can really sum it up and have this big paper that shows just what a great student you are and what all the work you put into it. And you put minimal work into it, and your professor's like, man, this just does not reflect the student I know. When you all semester you were on top of assignments, you were a team player, you were had assignments on time, A+, great work ethic. This thesis does not reflect any of that, and I just don't understand. It's shocking, it's surprising, it's all those adjectives. And that's what Game of Thrones is. For season 7 was okay, but I'll say 7 seasons, I'll say this show was amazing. Had amazing production quality, amazing actors, dedicated crew. Even though I didn't agree with some of the plot stuff they did with the Long Night, the battle against the Night King and how he died, they still spent 53 nights. All these late nights into the early morning, people getting little to no sleep, all of the special effects. I highly, highly praise this show for the time and effort that they put into making it. The music, oh my gosh, I love the soundtrack of this show. I will praise that to the high heavens. There's so much to love about this show, and we know all of that. But to get to this point where everything just feels so rushed, so rushed. My dad said it to me. He's like, wow, I feel like they went for the Hollywood approach where, you get the great spectacles, things are burning, it felt like they were like, let's just wrap this shit up, man. Wrap this shit up. We've got 6 episodes. We could do 10, but why? Why do 10? I'll tell you why. Because it makes you more money. It extends your show into June. More people can see it. You get to have more time to dedicate to characters that had unfulfilled faith, like nonsensical plot lines, nonsensical character development. Isn't the point of character development to get you from one point and then get you to another point? Jaime Lannister's character development, by season 3 and 4, I made a tweet, or I'd said this to my friends. I was like, oh my gosh, I love Jaime Lannister's character development. He went from this douchebag who would push a kid out of a tree and was just this cocky swordsman who was screwing his sister. Then he started to show some honor and respect when he was with Brienne, and especially when he lost his hand. He went through some real character development, and they built all of that up just so he could go back to his sister, back to square one. Back to square motherfucking one. That was what you wanted for Jaime Lannister? For him to go from here to here, and then go back down to where he started. It was like a triangle. He started at a low point, at a really bad, unlikable position, went to a likable position, started to make some bad decisions, but was kind of likable, and then they put him right back to where he was. He died with Cersei in his arms, saying nothing matters, nothing else matters, even though he screwed Brienne, knighted her, made her a knight of the 7 kingdoms. Who cares? All of that. I mean, this was a man who I thought at the end of season 7 had cut Cersei off. Like cancer, I thought he got rid of this fucking virus. He made it very clear. He disobeyed her and left King's Landing to go north to warn Jon Snow that her armies were not coming to help. and then he hears that his sister might die, and then he has this, like, very quick, again, the pace of this show and his decision. Sansa says, "Oh, I can't wait to be there. I wish I was there when they execute your sister." And then he's like, "Oh my gosh," and he has this character moment while Brienne's sleeping, and then he runs out to his horse and he's like, "I've always loved Cersei, like, that's always who I've been." It's like, what? Like, you showed progress, man. Like, why are we just wiping people's progress? Daenerys, Jaime, why are we just taking a freaking eraser and erasing a chalkboard of an equation that we just did and saying, oh yeah, now we're just left with nothing. We're back to where we started with absolutely nothing. I could go on and on. I only mentioned, really the only characters I went in depth with in this was Daenerys and Jaime. But I feel like those were the big ones. And, you know, hey, at least people got Clegane Bowl. People kept saying Clegane Bowl, Clegane Bowl. Well, you got it with, you know, open sky, fiery spectacles. You got Clegane Bowl. I guess that's something. And then, you know, the Hound tackled his brother into the flames, and that's how he went out. The thing that he feared the most. I don't know, man. This was just so disappointing. Like, again, the action was good. And the other thing is, how did Daenerys avoid all of those scorpions? Qyburn upgraded these scorpions to take, like, they took out one of her dragons in the previous episode, and then all of us are like, oh wow, like, now Cersei is kind of like the playing field's even because she has this dragon killing device. She kind of tried to make one in season 7, but it didn't work against Drogon. But now, you know, whoa, she took out Rhaegal, shot a freaking arrow right through his neck. Okay, it doesn't look like it's going to be as easy as Daenerys just flying and burning everything. Nope, it was as easy as Daenerys flying and burning everything. Yep, it was that easy. She just, like an airplane, she just did strafe runs, and then it was so laughable. Qyburn's like, oh, your grace, she took out all of our air defenses. What? You upgraded these things, like, and Cersei even made the point. All it takes is one arrow. It was one dragon. All it took was one shot. They got those pinpoint accurate shots on her second dragon, Rhaegal, that they took out and killed in the previous episode. And now you're telling me they only have to kill one, and none of them were able to do it. None of them. None of Euron Greyjoy's fleet that had them. None of the castle defenses that had them. None of them were able to take her out. Really. Because I was thinking, I was like, how is Daenerys going to do this? Is she going to put armor on Drogon? Like, what's her master plan? Like, what's her ace in the hole that's going to destroy these defenses? Nope. She just plot armor, literal plot armor, got her around everything, fire, boom, 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 and just everyone's dead. This video's gone on for a bit, and I don't want to go on too long. I want you guys to comment. This is awful, man. What a disappointing ending. But you know what? My channel was always about The Walking Dead. If my channel was only about Game of Thrones, oh my gosh. Guys, I'd have a worse reaction than this, let me tell you. But The Walking Dead is still my number one. So, you see, that's interesting, but I don't know. I'm going to make a separate vlog about this. Will The Walking Dead, when the show finally ends, whenever, season 12, 13, 14, whatever season it ends, when they finally decide to end it, the main show. I know there's Fear the Walking Dead, and there's the other freaking Walking Dead third show, and the Rick Grimes movies, I get it. But the main Walking Dead show, will the ending be as bad as this? Is it possible? and maybe I'll just leave that as a question for you guys, and I'll make another vlog about it. Do you think it's possible that The Walking Dead could have a worse conclusion to the series than this? It obviously requires, I know some people might, if you're watching this and you're a Game of Thrones fan, you might not know Walking Dead. You'd have to watch all 9 seasons. And I get it. It's over 100 episodes. So, but it's something to ponder. And for me, who likes both shows, it's definitely something that I'm thinking about now. So that's it, guys. I'm going to end the vlog. Thank you for watching. Sorry I was blowing my nose. I'm just, fighting a cold. And I wanted to make this vlog, and I'm just really frustrated about how this... I just finished watching episode 5. I needed to get this off my chest. It was a disaster, man. Dan and David, I am not gonna, if I see your name, it's kind of like the Rian Johnson thing. Once Rian Johnson ruined Star Wars The Last Jedi, anything with his name on it in the future I'll avoid. I think that's gonna be the case with Dan and David. Because if this is how they treat stories for things they do in the future, then, there's no way. There's no way I'll support it. So, I'll finish the episode. There's no point in boycotting it. There's 1 episode left. I'm going to finish the final episode next week. And then, is it even worth making another video? I've already ranted and said how horrible this was. Nothing next week can change it. So, alright guys. I'm depressed as fuck over this. The show's ruined. And, yeah. See ya.